everybody, welcome back. If you haven't been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books. Today I've got another audiobook for you. So this one is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. So that is your front cover. I've heard people talk about this book for years. So it said it was shortest for the Welcome Book Prize in 2019. I think this was her first book. It felt like it was slightly shorter. It's 7 hours and 15 minutes to listen to it, and I usually listen to stuff like this on 1.5 speed. And it was narrated by Julia Whelan, who I have probably seen in things. It wasn't one of those voices, but she's just got such a wonderful voice for audiobook. I loved the voices that she used. I've heard, because I listen to and watch the Books Unbound podcast by Raylene LeMay and Ariel Bissett. They have been talking about this book for a long time on their podcast, and I've never read any Ottessa Moshfegh, incredibly. And so when I watched another video where they talked about it, it's just like, I'm just going to need to track down something by Ottessa Moshfegh and just have a listen. And I found this one. It's the only Ottessa Moshfegh that's on my library app at the moment. And yeah, I just thought, let's give it a go. The tagline at the bottom of it is, "It's the year 2000 in a city aglitter with wealth and possibility. What could be so terribly wrong?" It's got the little blurb for you. Our narrator has many advantages of life. Young, thin, pretty, and a recent Columbia graduate, she lives in an apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, paid for, like everything else, by her inheritance. But there is a vacuum at the heart of things, and it isn't just the loss of her parents in college, or the way her Wall Street boyfriend treats her, or her sadomasochistic relationship with her alleged best friend. As you can tell, the blurb doesn't give you much. Basically, our narrator, as right per the blurb, she's not given a name in any part of the text. I wonder if anybody kind of tried to read between the lines and see if there's anything that points to a possible name, kind of like they did in Handmaid's Tale. But yeah, after the death of her parents, very close together in her final year of college, she decides that she wants to sleep for a year. And she finds the worst therapist she can find. The voice for the therapist, like, I wanted to punch her. One of those voices where you're just like, oh my god, you are talking complete drivel. And so obviously our narrator chose her for a reason, because she can manipulate her into giving her all the drugs to help her sleep. And our narrator talks about the blackouts that she has, like the things that she does while she's asleep, the things she does to try and protect herself from doing things while she's asleep, like putting locks in her doors. There's a morning when she wakes up and she finds that she's texted her ex-boyfriend multiple times, and so she finds creative ways of trying to keep her phone away from her while she's asleep, like putting it like at the top of cupboards, or putting it in plastic bag or something and sticking it in the bath. Yeah. All the creative things that she does to try and protect herself from what she might do in one of her blackouts. And she has a friend, Reva, that visits a lot throughout the book. And our narrator is like a friend but not a friend, because she talks badly about this friend quite a lot throughout the book, but ultimately it seems like a friendship that's supposed to last in a way, like one of those people that's going to be in your life no matter what. And yeah, you just see her from an unexplained point in the future looking back over this year of rest and relaxation and everything that happened. And it was kind of brilliant. I didn't know what to expect. I knew it was going to be weird, and it's kind of a character who's kind of likeable but not likeable at the same time. Like, you see her selfishness, especially in the way she talks about her friends and the people around her. But then you also feel sorry for her, because it feels like she's in the depths of grief and depression. And so seeing the things that she does in order to have this year of rest and relaxation, you kind of feel sorry for her, but at the same time also not. It's a very weird place to be in regards to a protagonist. She's kind of a pro and antagonist at the same time, because she's part of her own destruction. But yeah, I was kind of fascinated by it. She's a self-described WASP. I remember Googling, I didn't completely understand what WASP actually meant. A white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, a person from North European, usually Protestant stock, forming a group of often considered the most dominant, privileged and influential in American society. Which is why I hadn't really heard of this, because it's more of an American thing than a British thing. She lives on her massive inheritance. She talks about her relationship with her mother and her father, where it's obvious that her mother wasn't well. Her mother got pregnant with the narrator quite young, and her father and the narrator, it's weird talking like the narrator or this person, because you don't get any character name for her, but you find out that her mother was young and a student and was impregnated by her teacher, and she has a very different, interesting relationship that she had with her parents, where her mother would randomly take her out of school or just not take her to school, and then her father was quite distant anyway, and yeah, it's just trigger warning for like parental abuse and neglect and things. That's probably the best way to describe it. But at the same time, she still had a love for her parents. She obviously had a very complicated relationship with her parents, but it obviously sent her into a deep depression when she loses her mother to suicide. And then, which way around was it? Was it a mum killed herself and then her dad died of cancer, or was it the other way around? But they died very close together in her final year of college, and then that leads her on to her thinking that she just needs to have like a reset. She just wants to sleep for a year and come out of this cocoon all breezy and bright-eyed, and she just thinks that that year of sleep is going to fix everything. But then you realise that no, she's just missed out on a year of her life where she could have done so much more. She could have, especially because with it being set in like 2000, 2001, there was a point when they talk about the Twin Towers. And when that came up, that conversation was just like, why do I have a feeling that I kind of know where this is going? I was just thinking, I get the feeling that the fall of the Twin Towers might actually be a plot point. If this came out in like 2018, 2019, it does feel intentional to write something set in 2000, 2001. So yeah, when I heard the thing about her best friend getting a job at the Twin Towers, and it was just like, I have a feeling this is not going to go well. I have a feeling this is going to become quite important. Mainly because when you look at other things that have got that kind of setting that are made now, it's a big thing to talk about. It's a big moment of especially American New York history, because this is set in New York. So New York 2000, 2001. It did feel kind of intentional to set it at that point. I loved the narration of it. I loved the voice, because there were such distinct, clear differences within the narration in regards to the unnamed narrator of it and her life, and then the voices for Reva and the voice for the therapist. Those really the main characters, really. That main character is somebody who you kind of relate to, but also not, because as somebody who unfortunately has gone through a lot of grief, for me it was a particular year. 2015 we call the shit year in my family, because we just lost a lot of people, and so I kind of identify with her in a way of going through a lot of grief quite close together, to the point where you kind of feel a bit numb, and that is where the narrator is. She's numb, and she decided that she just wants to go into hibernation, and grief does that to people, but it's obvious there's more to it than just the loss of her parents, and she's dealing with a lot more, and just her choosing to find a therapist who is inept at a job like that. The amount of times the narrator has to tell her therapist how her mother died, and to the point where like sometimes she makes stuff up, sometimes she says that she killed her, and you know, she tells this therapist multiple times throughout the book how parents died, and the therapist just doesn't have a clue. Dr. Tuttle, she's one of those people that you hear about and you just kind of want to slap her and just go, what the hell are you doing? But yeah, it was just so interesting to listen to, and for such a bizarre concept, I weirdly enjoyed it. It'll be interesting if it actually ever is made into a movie. Margot Robbie bought the rights to the book in 2018 under her production company, and they did a stage production of it in Switzerland in 2020. But yeah, it'll be interesting if that movie ever happens and who'd be in it, because you'd want somebody who... It's the idea that she's blonde, she's young, she's rich, but she's not happy in the slightest. So yeah, it's really a deep dive into her mental state as to like why she has chosen to do this and what she thinks she's going to achieve by doing this, and just ultimately just how disturbed she actually is. It just, for somebody who kind of, I do gravitate towards the dark and disturbing every so often, this scratched that itch for the dark and disturbing and a bit weird. I don't know what to compare it to, so I'll just say that it's in comedy, dark humour. It did have some quite funny points throughout it, satire, contemporary, and general literary fiction. My Year of Rest and Relaxation, Ottessa Moshfegh. Yeah, I'm probably like the last person on the planet to read this at this point, but if by any chance you haven't read it, I wonder if what I said has helped you make a decision. I hope I haven't put you off it, because it is an incredibly interesting book, and the audiobook was incredible. Just Julia Whelan as our narrator was just perfection. Her voice on this book just fits so well. And if I read it myself, I'd probably have Julia's voice in my head now. Not mine. I'd have Julia's voice reading it in my head if I actually sat down and read the actual book. But this was like something that I'd proudly display on my bookshelf. Like, I would buy this book. I rented it from the library to listen to it, but this is one that I would go out and buy. My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. Dark, funny, and just all down weird, but fascinating and brilliant. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you on Sunday with another video. Stay safe, everybody. Love you all. Bye.